Well, our first stop here is the award-winning Botanist Bar. I've got a guy, before we introduce him, I got to mention some of this great stuff. Ranked 24th North America's 50 best bars, and is a recipient of the Michelin Exceptional Cocktails Award. Good that we have this guy. He's the creative beverage director, CBD, folks, if you're hip and cool. Grant joins us. Grant, you've got a couple of holiday cocktails here and a classic. Perfect timing for our viewers right now. Let's talk about this first one, which I'm anxious to try.
Yeah, so we've got two here from our holiday seasonal menu. We like to play off the nostalgic flavors you get this time of year. People are used to having, cinnamon bun toast with their parents in the morning, used to having like gingerbread cookies, and like being the indulgent things you have this time of year. So we've taken a classic eggnog cocktail, using a whole again of cocktails called a flip, but we're using in this one, we're using a bit of banana, maple, some spices, and bourbon at the base. So bourbon got a little bit of spiciness to it, so it takes your classic old eggnog and gives it a bit of a punch to it.
And I think because of guys like you making it better than it was from my childhood and my teenage years, that's why more people are ordering this.
I would hope so. I think, there's a huge dedication to the craft over the past 15 to 20 years for sure.
The second one, I think our crew is going to be fighting over. We've got another classic here.
Yeah, so we're taking the old-fashioned, using tequila at the base, and aged tequila, playing off the spices you get off of reposado tequila, and we're using gingerbread. We've made a gingerbread cordial or gingerbread mix, which is molasses, orange, cinnamon, allspice, and a bit of nutmeg. So it just really plays off the tequila. So this tequila gingerbread cookie, which is delicious.
Now, one that you brought in is a classic as well, but this is available all year round, of course, not just during the holidays.
So this is on our menu all year here. This is our Botanist Marine Martini. And what we like to do is incorporate botany into our cocktails, but we're kind of nodding towards a classic people are familiar with. So a classic martini that you might get with olives is a little bit salty.
Right.
Instead of using an olive, we've got sea asparagus as a garnish, which comes from Vancouver Island. We use kombu as an infusion as well, which pulls a bit of saltiness and salinity to the cocktail. So you get this nice, lightly salted gin martini, but the flavors are pulled from the ocean and botany instead.
Great. I'm glad I got to talk to you. Thanks, Grant.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Well, from cocktails to wine, I'm joined by the head sommelier, Matthew, who's going to talk about some great stuff. You've chosen 3, and we're going to talk about those wines right now because you have an award-winning wine list. Let's start with this lovely bottle right here.
Always a great way to start a meal. Every single time you go out with friends, you go with family, you enjoy special occasion. I always like to start with a great glass of champagne. Choosing a specific champagne, choosing a specific style of champagne is always difficult, going with different levels of sweetness, different levels of minerality, different levels of terroir. And I want to get something that's really nice, crisp, clean, and just linear and beautiful. That's why we chose Bruno Paillard. The Premier Cuvée is the Extra Brut. Is just a perfect way to start a meal, to start that celebration, or start that Tuesday night.
Let's talk about this wine right here in the middle. I am not familiar with this wine, so tell us a bit about it.
One of the reasons I did choose this one specifically, I feel everybody typically goes towards, let's have a Pinot Grigio, let's have a Chardonnay, let's have something that you're used to, something that's familiar. But one of my absolute favorites is Chenin Blanc. I love Chenin Blanc. Anytime, give me a South African, give me a Loire Valley, give me something a little different. And this is just absolutely lovely. The elegance in this, the florality, the smoothness of this, especially pairing with Chef Hector's really diverse menu. It's something that's one of those ones that just kind of sits in that perfect place and pairs with a wide variety of food, but also is just delicious. Just to finish after the workday, just a lovely glass of wine.
You also want to have as much BC representation as you can, and you've done that with this iconic wine.
Now, with our BC wines, they've been struggling so bad. So anything we can do to kind of help give back to BC wine, and knowing Ross, the head winemaker at Black Hills, very well, Ross is a rock star. It does really, really great wines, and Black Hills is per se is one of my favorites. Mostly Cabernet Franc, a little bit of Merlot in there as well. But I love, you can have this with a great steak, you can have this with some roasted mushrooms, you can have that with a lot of the autumn flavors, but something that's just beautiful, so rich, so pungent, so strong, but absolutely fantastic to go along with, something that's really great made in BC.
Come check out the great wine list. Again, award-winning wine list. Matthew, thank you very much for your time. Going to go from the bar into the restaurant where Lita has got more for you.
At the Botanist Restaurant, I am sitting here with Executive Chef Hector Laguna. Quite an interesting journey you've had. You've been from San Francisco, Miami, Toronto, Hawksworth Restaurant here locally, and then brought you to the Botanist, which you've helped transform into an award-winning menu and restaurant. We're so excited to sit down with you today.
Happy to be here.
Oh, I have to give a little disclosure. I have tasted some of these dishes already. Thank you. I can see why it's award-winning, and I can see why it's so unique. Now, you've brought Pacific Northwest into your menu, but also with a little bit of Mexican heritage, because you've been cooking for as long as you said you can remember.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your inspiration for the dishes.
Yeah, I think you got it all right. I started cooking really young at home. So cooking at home, it was always so exciting. The kitchen, the whole family together, grandma and mom always. They're best chefs I know. So I cooked for a long time. Now, when we came to Vancouver, we talked about Botanist. We said, like, yeah, that Pacific Northwest is the kind of way we gotta go. But now, what is really Pacific Northwest, right? We take it as we use everything we can put our hands on locally. We get all this beautiful produce for around us, which is amazing how lucky we are.
Yes.
We get.
I was quoted 90% of your produce is from a local farm in Chilliwack called Local Harvest.
Exactly. Most of it is from there. We use a couple other farms as well, Northern Farms and Fairmont, I think it is.
Okay.
And Hannahbrook, which is half an hour away from here.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about the dishes right away. You have two, as you call, starters on the table and two main courses that are very popular and I guess seasonal as well,
Right.
correct? Okay, so where would you like to start?
Well, I mean, I guess kind of going back to inspiration on the menu. We really take it from the vegetables for the most part. And the reason I want to go back a little bit is because when we talk about a burrata salad, so it's burrata buried underneath. But then we take beets and we do so much of them. Like we cook them in so many different ways. We have choose salt roasted little beets. Then we dry them a little bit, just enough so the sugars caramelize a little bit, and they're a little more sweet. We dress them with a little white balsamic vinaigrette, and that adds a little tart tanginess that contrasts really nicely with the beets. So we do that with beets. Then we have these over here that are choose red beets, and what we do is we slice them really thin, and then we freeze them. What happens with that is, again, the sugar just kind of pumps up. And then when you thaw them, you don't need to cook them. It's just like a freezer cook technique. It's kind of thing.
Okay, so
Carpaccio.
that looks different.
It's Wagyu carpaccio. The Wagyu is American Wagyu. So it's not as marble as Japanese Wagyu, which it gets a little too much. So this is a little less marble, less fun. And we have, I know carpaccio with so many Mexican flavors in there. We do heavy cilantro, and then we do a sauce which is an aioli, if you will. Mojo de ajo is called, so it's garlic based. And then we do a salsa verde, so a green sauce with this is based on cilantro as well. So it's a play on cilantro and garlic.
Oh, okay, that's super unique.
And then so we do a little lemon vinaigrette to bring some acids out to got a little bit of richness from the meat.
Okay, let's go to this guy here.
This one, this is very special for me. It has green mole. It's also called in Mexico pipián verde. It's probably the thing I grew up eating the most at home. So my mom is obsessed with it. And the red sauce is salsa macha. Again, we eat it a lot. So pipián rojo, you usually eat it with chicken or white fish. In this case, we chose to go with the fish. And it's just nostalgic. So we love to have those flavors in the restaurant, yeah.
Okay, the king over there.
Steak. We have had a really great beef program at Botanist ever since we opened. So we dry it for 90 days, and then we marinated in a bunch of dried chilies, garlic, onions, olive oil, and that's what we do with the meat. Like the meat itself is really tender, it's juicy, it's pretty delicious. And then for the garnishes, again, we go what we have local. Like right now, still we get a lot of wild mushrooms, potatoes. So we got playful with the potatoes, not necessarily on the gnocchi. Gnocchi is a very common way to eat potatoes. But then we decided to do, again, to go with the two other crunchy factor, right? So we decided to make what we call potato glass. And as potato and as almost see-through. And so what we do is we cook potatoes until they're really overcooked. Then we puree them. Then we spread them on a tray, and then we dehydrate them. Then we fry them, and as you fry them, the oil just make them see-through, which is pretty cool. It adds, as I said, a little crunchiness. We keep them a little salty, so it adds a little salt as well.
So you're an artist, you're a scientist, you're everything in between.
No, we just have fun. I think that's what it comes to.
Well, thank you for spending some time with our city tonight. I know how busy you
pleasure.
are. You're getting ready now for the dinner crowd, and we're thrilled to have you on.
Thank you for coming over. It was great.
Thanks, Hector.
Thank you.